Historical neglect, unresolved chronological injustices, a vast empty spaces, huge borders and locals' lack of trust in the police have made the region a poison bill. The Kenyan state has for decades treated Kenyan Somalis as the enemy within. That is why, despite the presence of ethnic Somalis in high position within the government, the northern region has remained the epicenter of human rights violations by the state. The anatomy of Wagala and other massacres are still fresh in the minds of many residents. Kenya's northern region, which held so much promise under the devolved system of governance, could likely take years to recover from the ashes of terror. Right from Mandera, Wajir and Garissa, several institutions have been affected and remain closed till now. Massive economic decline, both from private and public sectors, as for educational standards mostly from the region, remain fragile and precarious. And if this crisis is not managed, it's likely the region will remain marginalized for another 5 decades, hence losing the war on the approximate cause of the current wave of terrorism and the radicalization of youth in northern region.
You have no one who will stand and talk for you.
It's not right to abandon them. They're crying for you. Kindly come and be a father to them.
The enemy number one of this country and indeed of this world is Al-Shabaab.
Years after independence, bado tunaumia.
Our fight with Al-Shabaab must start with education.
The young children of this region are not going to school.
We are emotional, we are very sad.
The community of Northeastern Province has been put on high alert.
Time has come. For now, the matter is serious. The serious matter which you must take by the whole now.
On June 1st, 2015, Kenya marked its 52nd Madaraka Day, the same day when Kenyans themselves, led by Prime Minister Jomo Kenyatta, assumed responsibility over the affairs of our country in 1963. This year's occasion came at a time when the country is bedeviled by myriad of security problems posed by the Al-Shabaab militant group based in southern and central Somalia. Despite the many achievements of the past 52 years, Kenyans and especially the residents of northeastern counties of Garissa, Wajir and Mandera view this current threat to nationhood as the most serious yet they have faced since independence. As for Garissa County, the county that hit the headline on 2nd April 2015, during the university attack was not left behind in marking the national acclaim occasion. Hundreds of Garissa residents thronged the Garissa primary school grounds to join other Kenyans across the country to mark this year's Madaraka Day amid tight security. In my past years practicing as a freelance journalist reporting widely on a variety of issues in northern Kenya, I never came across before and how the way the residents of Garissa County was so stressed in order to participate the national commemoration.
As the Kenyans celebrate the 52nd Madaraka Day,
The people of northeastern Kenya are all up in hands to claim and counterclaims, going back by critics and saying something bad and good about the government of the day. Discussing about the issue of what happened in Garissa University College, over 148 people that have lost their life. The issue of the down-to-dusk curfew is still ongoing, but the leaders are all saying in unity that the issue of the curfew is something that will bring the whole nation and the county economic crunch. But it's a question of wait and see if the government of Kenya will concentrate about the cries and hear all that's happening in northern part of Kenya. Not only for the love of their own country, but rather optimistic to hear if the government will ever listen their plight to find speedy and long-lasting solution to those security problems bedeviling region, which in turn have brought the negative and social economic impact to the residents.
Before we used to make between 5,000 to 6,000 for a profit, but now things have changed. We hardly manage to raise over 1,000 shillings for our business.
It
has affected the businesses in this town, and more so the curfew that was imposed in this area has really brought down the business activities in this county, and more specifically in Garissa town. It was also unfortunate that people today do not know who to run to.
Celebration in Garissa that were led by Governor Dave Jama and saw area leaders call on the national government to move with speed and address the shortage of teachers plaguing the public schools in the county and the region as whole.
I can say that is collective punishment from the government. Na lazima isimame, watoto wetu wako na haki ya kusoma kama watoto wengine.
Sisi tunataka walimu. Kama serikali itatoa binguni ama wapi, it is not the responsibility of the citizen of Northeastern. We are Kenyan citizens, we are taxpayers. Lazima constitution ifuatwe. Education is the responsibility of the national government. Kama TSC imekataa kuleta walimu, walete pesa.
The worst attack on Kenyan soil after 1998 bombing of the US Embassy in Nairobi on a chilly Thursday morning after 4 Al-Shabaab gunmen managed to enter Garissa University College after shooting dead 2 security guards manning the main gate and proceeded to religiously profile and kill 147 students in a 15-hour siege at the university.
Kwa natawada ndio nimesikia lalini chini na mwenzangu yule yako kwa gate nimeona kiwana anaanguka. Sasa mimi nimejitupa hapo. Unaona? Kama nimejitupa nimesikia malio ya risasi. Tena kuna mwingine sasa baada ya malio ya risasi kuna mtu aliongea. Kwa vile mimi siwezi nikainuka kwa hicho uwezo kanyo unajua. Anaweza kushoot.
The attack came 5 months after 36 non-Somali Kenyans, mostly teachers, and other civil servants were pulled from Nairobi-bound bus as they were traveling from Mandera town for the Christmas holidays in their rural homes and were executed. The Al-Shabaab claimed responsibility for the attacks, which shook the country. The attack also caused uproar with workers' unions, while citing security reasons, called on their members, mainly teachers, doctors, and nurses working in northeastern counties to avoid going back to work in those counties after the Christmas holidays.
We cannot use our teachers as litmus paper or guinea pigs to try whether security is in Mandera or Wajir or not.
But instead report to Nairobi for deployment to more safer areas. More than 500 teachers vowed though to return to the insecure region.
Sijasema nipeleke kwetu nilikozaliwa. Nataka kupelekwe mahali kuna usalama. Iwe Lamu, Mpeketoni, iwe Kabedo, Pokot, lakini si Northeastern.
Sisi tunaenda kwa shule interior na wanatuambia wataweka askari mmoja kwa shule. Atanilinda nikienda kununua mboga. Atanilinda nikienda darasani.
Education sector is facing a very big challenge to the extent that
the national syllabus, which is supposed to be covered from primary to secondary, is facing a very serious challenge. Students, learners, teachers are not achieving the objective set for this year, 2015. On onset, I want to say the Kenya National Examination Council, which is expected to be undertaken mid-November, is not going to be very successful in Northeastern. So we say again, in a very big words, the national government, this is an emergency and should be a national disaster. Education in Northeastern is a national disaster which calls for the present intervention.
The move by the unions has gravely affected education in the semi-arid region. Students in public primary and secondary schools are schooling but not learning since there are no teachers to teach them. The recruitment of emergency and trained teachers as a stopgap measure has not done much because of the large shortage of teachers, estimated to be close to 5,000.
Niathirika kwa sababu walimu wengi hawajarudi. Kwa sasa tunavyozungumza, walimu ambao wako shuleni ukijumlisha na mimi tuko 8 peke yake katika walimu 28. So utapata kwamba shule nzima walimu 28 tumebaki 8 peke yake, ni ngumu. Kwa hivyo imebidi tuwaweke wanafunzi katika vikundi tuweze kusomesha wale ambao kwamba tuende kuwasomesha.
It is pity what awaits the candidate in a Standard 8 and Form 4 who will sit the national examination later this year, seeing even as some schools have dropped some technical subjects like agriculture, woodwork and power mechanics because of lack of qualified tutors.
The problem is with the people themselves. If the leaders on the ground are consulted, the religious leaders, the elders, the mamas on the ground, and then the students themselves, we have solution. And the solution is self-sacrifice and committed from the leaders who are on the national government. Right now we have governor, we have county government in Garissa and Wajir Mandera. They are part and parcel of Kenya. They have a lot of ideas, they have a lot of input. Therefore their decision, they should be consulted how to go about this crisis.
I see some darkness in our goals. There's no teacher who will be guiding us and like showing you the right future or telling you that this is supposed to be done, this is not supposed to be done. As we know that teachers have to lead you. When the teachers are not there, then who's going to lead us then? And mostly the most important subject is on sciences or on the teachers who teach those subjects are not around then. So like it will be a big disadvantage to us that the other Kenyans are being taught and we are not taught like something. We are all Kenyans, so we have to be taught the same way. So on the teachers should be there.
The Garissa attack would add more shortcomings to the already heavily existing problems facing locals residing in the region. Residents do not have faith in the security tools deployed to secure the area. Somalis, who are the majority, fear the backlash and a collective punishment, a tactic often used by security machineries whenever attacks happen in the country.
People today do not know who to run to. The police that were meant to protect the lives of the people and their properties are the ones that are harassing, brutally beating and killing our people. It was so unfortunate event. It happened several times. We have seen our youths that were gathered in one place, beaten thoroughly.
Non-Somalis who work in different fields in the area tend to move away and go back to their hometowns in fear of more attacks from Al-Shabaab. Majority of teachers and doctors in Garissa County are workers who come from a different part of the country. The education and health sectors in the region are on their knees, having suffered the most from this heinous attack. The incident was used as a reason to close down the operations of the Garissa University College, the only state-owned university in the region, as a number of other colleges such as Garissa Medical Training College is a greater loss to the region. A number of key business owned by non-Somalis Kenyans have also closed, while the economy in general has suffered badly following the Garissa University attack.
dhibka noogu badan maqribkii waan cararnaa magaaladana beecsharo ma laha suuqina waxaan ugu rogay lo iyo ido iyo eri waan dhamaanay xaq maqribkii waan guuraynaa risq male magaalada.
Kitu kwanza tumeboresha maisha watu wengi sana ambao walikuwa marafiki yetu ambao tulikuwa tumejuana na wao. Sisi kama wafanyabiashara tegemeo letu ilikuwa wanafunzi wao university. Basi ikiwa wao hawako hata sisi hatutakuwa na kazi hapo.
She's saying that This watermelon, which cost before the university attack, it cost 100 shillings. But now, after the attack, it seems a drastic decline, about the same of the price of now the product itself.
Over the years, the Kenyan government has ignored northeastern province predominantly inhabited by Kenyans of Somali origin. The government has treated these people as second-class citizens and used draconian law that has seen thousands dead, thousands widowed, and thousands left orphans. A glaring weakness in the Kenyan's defense against Al-Shabaab's terror is the persistent gap between the Kenyan security forces and the civilian populations that rely on their protection in these predominantly Muslim areas. Distrust of the government in Nairobi runs deep. Security forces have tended to isolate themselves from the communities they should be protecting. Instead of the Kenyan police being integrated into the society, it is the opposite. They have their own housing schemes and they live in seclusion. This is most pronounced in northeastern Kenya and along the coast, which have large ethnic Somali and Muslim population. This has many the Muslim communities to conclude that they are being targeted for collective punishment during the times of security crackdowns like that which followed the Westgate massacre in April 2011, where police rounded out thousands of ethnic Somalis in Nairobi and held them at Kasarani National Stadium as part of the security operation. In Somalia, Al-Shabaab is on the back foot. In Kenya, the group is gaining prominence. Since the Garissa attack, the government has threatened to shut down the WVG camp, where more than 350,000 Somali refugees live, and has begun building a 900-kilometer wall along the Kenyan-Somali border.
Some people are taken away, and we don't know up to date where they are. I don't know this government which act they are following for taking these people to nowhere. So that's a problem. Extrajudicial killing in this region was continuing since 1960 and is continuing till today.
The government itself denies. They say that the issue of the extrajudicial killing is not something which is there, but the issue of the keeping security vigil is something they have in mind.
A 900-kilometer wall along the Kenyan-Somali border. Such actions, as well as precipitated widespread fear along the Muslims and Somali communities, appear to be doing little to stop the rise of Islamic extremism in Kenya and win the confidence of the Kenyan Muslims in the country's security agencies. For instance, in the aftermath of Garissa University College, a dusk to dawn curfews from 6 to 6:30 a.m. were imposed in the northeastern counties of Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and the neighboring Tana River, all largely Muslim-dominated, and just 4 months after another dusk to dawn curfew was imposed in Lamu County following an attack on Mbeketoni village. The chairman of Garissa chapter of Supreme Council of Kenyan Muslims, SUPKEM, Abdullah Salat, suggested that the Kenyan police were using the curfew as a pretext to harass residents, especially Muslims. He asserted that the most Muslims had consequently chosen to remain in their houses.
Hii watu ambao wameingia hapa juzi, information ilikuwa inajulikana. Sijui serikali ilikuwa inataka tuende tupigane na hawa, mpaka wanakuja wanaanza kupiga watu na kushuba watu. So we are telling the national government to be serious with security issues. This county and northeastern is part of Kenya and ni jukumu yao.
Mr. Ismail Abdikadir, the coordinator for the Kenya Reforms for Activists, likewise argued that the curfew would ultimately not help strengthen security because similar curfews that had been imposed in the past were ineffectual. He also suggested the Kenyan police itself was the source of much of the insecurity and indicated that rogue police officers had begun rounding up youth and were seeking bribes upwards for their release.
Basically, there is the Kenya National Human Rights Commission that has a mandate also to oversee any human rights violations that happen across. That was not happening. The offices are very well established. They are funded, but the thing is, there is zero. This region, actually, Wajir has the Kenya National Human Rights Office based there. But what it does is nothing. And definitely when the human rights organization you are being told is being funded by the government, The commissions are being appointed by the government. They will not report anything bad about the government. The dilemma is, for example, the Coast region has Muhuri, which advocates for human rights and the basic rights of the people. They have the SUPKEM and these Muslim organizations also, which advocate for them. Unlike here, whereby you find that the literate guys are never put into the system. When in Garissa today, the leadership that is here, the members of parliament from the region have never been close with the current administration of the county government under the devolved system. The governor has been having a lot of hard time with the members of parliament.
Analysts say that Al-Shabaab is taking advantage of fault lines among Kenyans, such as religious affiliation, for maximum impact. But if this thinking is right, of avenging for Muslims, one will have to ask why the same Al-Shabaab is killing fellow Muslims in Somalia. As for Mama Halima Mohammed, a 64-year-old mother of 6, and Amir Fenda in Garissa town says what is happening in the region is typically what she witnessed in the past years during the post-independence Shifta war, where Kenyan Somalis were tortured and harassed by the security officers and later detained.
ودنك ودن دو maaha waan dhunne anaga dawladda hadii waxba wax nala taray ma jirtaa wax nala taray kaafi oo kaliya naga qaad inta san dawladda xasanayna wax kale hadan ka sugeyn waxba no ma balana siinay ma bari karo inta ka badan.
With their thirst for getting education and security only a pipe dream at the time. However, as days goes by, residents are left praying that such attacks stop and the security agencies preempt such loss of life. They pray these attacks will not be a reason for continued suffering for the long marginalized region. On 17th July 2015, while other Kenyans were enjoying Eid al-Fitr, a holiday for Islam, a courageous group of patriots was finalizing a historical journey dubbed as a Walk of Hope. Garissa to Mandera, 1,000-kilometer Walk of Hope. Some things happen only once in one's lifetime. No matter how much we want them to repeat themselves, they seldom do this. That journey did not get much media coverage, neither did it get much journalist attention, as a non-script order by President Uhuru Kenyatta on a second-generation breeze that ended in a total anarchy. However, the Walk of Hope activists have set an indelible footprint on a Kenyan soil.
I urge to tell the rest of the Kenyans who departed from this region and went back to the other regions that this region is a very peaceful one. Our work is a justification that someone can work, live, walk, run in this region. So we urge even the government to come host some marathons in this country. We have a large track that can be used for that purposes.
The footprint is a hallmark of the need for reconciliation among Kenyan's peoples. It's a reminder of the informal 1960s referendum where Kenyan Somalis overwhelmingly opted to rejoin Greater Somalia. The government vehemently opposed this and subsequently the Shifta war that ended with scars in our souls, such as the Wagala massacre in Wajir, broke out. It also a living reminder of marginalization, oppression, tribalism and corruption when Al-Shabaab slaughtered 147 students of Garissa University College. The country was grief-stricken. The country was at its knees. This was the second most terrible attack in Kenya's history. Hashtag 147, not just a number, and hashtag they have names went live on social media in a bid to honor the departed souls, never to be forgotten. Despite the world media having picked up the story, this was not enough. The countless vigils by university students across the world were not enough either. These were not remotely as vital as what a courageous group of northern Kenya youth in the past month or so have been up to. This is why Walk of Hope did not start through sponsorship of NGOs and well-wishers. It began from the courage gathered by youth who wanted to recalibrate worldview of northern Kenya. A lot of Kenyans were cynical about its eventual grand entry into Mandera, as we witnessed on July 18.
The cynicism was also expressed by Al-Shabaab, which threatened to attack the activists as they thought the vast semi-arid lands.
The route has been very safe. We did not encounter anything that can insecure or can make our journey to come to a stop. It has been a very peaceful one.
However, it is the government whose cynicism was out of this world following the Garissa University attack. The government agencies, armed to the teeth, clamped down to kill runaway insecurity. Sadly, the clamping down only managed to quash the right of innocent civilians who were equally the victims. It plunged them into more trauma. In the end, Al-Shabaab and the government seemed to fight from the same side against the Kenyans. Furthermore, it fueled stereotypes against Muslims, especially those of Somali origin. The script was very similar to the one used in the infamous Kasarani concentration camp. In the wake of the university attack, arbitrary arrest and extrajudicial killings of suspects were widespread from Garissa through Wajir to Mandera. Hundreds of families are missing their loved ones without explanation from the police service, who are known to have picked them up.
Just recently, Hamza, who was picked by security agents, my classmate, is not known his fate, whether he was killed or he was not killed. His parents are at pain. The government is not answering the questions that their parents are asking.
Additionally, pictures leaked on social media by one of the police officers torturing citizens said it all. The only explanation from the government was that the police were just doing their work. What work? We ended up with a monolithic security system which still bites us to this day, just like the courageous young men who now have become the hallmark of liberation for Kenyan Somalis. The lesson to the rest of Kenya is that it is upon us to paint a different picture of the country. As we waited for the public relation exercise from the government, we lost more than 500 valuable souls: fathers, mothers, daughters, sons, grandchildren, wives, husbands, and friends. For the agents of manufacturing insecurity in Kenya, it is time they know that the Kenyans are now seeing them differently. Walk of Fob proves that a different story can be told and must be told by us. But the people of northern Kenya will have to wait the response from the government of Kenya if the current education and health crisis in the region will be a history soon, and will there be a time when the Kenyan security machinery will be bedfellows with the Kenyan Somalis in order to restore the long-lost community policy initiative. These are the questions of wait and see. As much hope awaits the northern frontier counties. And for the residents of 3 counties, despite the tragedy of what they have to go through life, they remain the most compassionate people worth knowing, and the ones that often become activists for the broken-hearted, forgotten and misunderstood. They are the angels with broken wings that only fly when love the forsaken of.
As the situation in northern part of Kenya remains fragile and precarious, if the current situation is unable to be prevented and managed, it's likely that the region which has for a long time marginalized could remain again back from their footing back.